Through your time of suffering depression, who were the best people to talk to in terms of help and ability to comfort you?
Mostly I would talk to my psychologist. Sometimes I felt like I could talk to my parents, but most of the times I couldn't. I used to really talk to my best friend. She would help me calm down sometimes. So most of the times my best friend, yeah.
What were your main problems and difficulties in your attempts to get yourself out of depression?
I guess just having depression, I was very less motivated to do anything. So just that lack of motivation stopped me from actually wanting to get over depression.
And finally, how do you think depression rates can be lowered in today's day and age?
There's a lot of pressure from society to be perfect, and a lot of people can't do that because everyone is different, right? I feel like if you talk to your friends and family, and if you think that you have depression, then go talk to a doctor, because if you do, you need to be diagnosed and you need to get professional help. I feel like people need to come forward with their problems instead of hiding them, and I guess that can help everyone.
Alright, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Randy, for giving me the opportunity to talk to these young men and women on this radio station about mental illness problems, specifically depression. I am Joshua, and I'm a researcher who targets mental illnesses, and I try to research as much as possible on each of these diseases so that we can help more people out there every day. The Beyond Blue website has high amounts of valuable information that young men and women can use. This is information that is especially important as Beyond Blue targets depression and anxiety. A person is more likely to be depressed if, for more than 2 weeks, they felt sad and generally in a bad mood. They do not enjoy things as much anymore, and horrible situations makes them feel unstable and even worse. It is important that nearly every single person that experiences several symptoms of depression at different times does not mean that they are depressed. Saying that someone that has depression doesn't necessarily have all of the depression symptoms. Depression can affect how people feel about themselves, and it makes life much more difficult to manage from day to day. The good news is that even though it is a mental illness, there's a various range of treatments, health professionals, and services available to help cope with depression, as well as provide you with more information to help yourself. These are, though, only ways to help reduce and or cope with it, and most probably will not get rid of the illness altogether. Some feelings that a victim can have include lacking in confidence, unhappiness, indecisiveness, disappointed, miserable, and sad. Some physical problems that can occur when you have depression are being tired all the time, sick and run down, and most importantly, headaches and muscle pains. Depression is such a young, common problem among nearly all people, especially young men and women. And the best thing you can do is to try and call helplines and ask help from different people. Most cases of depression pass after a while, depending on how bad the depression is, which will in turn build your mental resilience. Helplines include Beyond Blue, which is one of the most popular types of headlines when it comes to mental illness problems, specifically depression and anxiety. For years now, Beyond Blue has been doing as much work as possible to encourage people to learn about the symptoms and types of stress, anxiety, and depression, which they could face or may already be experiencing. According to Beyond Blue, Mindframe Media, and ABS Statistics, in Australia it is estimated that 45% of people would experience a mental health condition in their lifetime. In any one year, around 1 million Australian adults have depression and over 2 million have anxiety. In each year, approximately 1 in every 5 Australians will experience a mental illness. Mental illnesses are the third leading cause of disability burden in Australia, accounting for an estimated 27% of the total years lost due to disability. About 4% of people would experience a major depressive episode in a 12-month period, with 5% of women and 3% of men affected. Prevalence of mental illness decreases with age, with prevalence greatest among 18 to 24-year-olds. A national survey showed that 35% of people with a mental disorder had used a health service and 29% consulted a GP within the 12 months before the survey. This is a very low amount, and we need to tell more and more people who have depression and anxiety to show a health service and consult a GP to get help as quick as possible. Also, many violent people have no history of mental disorder, and most people with mental illness have no history of violence. This solves the case about how mental illnesses can promote more and more violence, even though that is not true, backed up by this stat. Psychological distress high for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people compared to non-at-sea people. Nearly 1 in every 3 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander adults experience high levels of psychological stress, more than twice the rate for non-Indigenous Australians, according to the latest ABS figures released today. In 2008, high levels of psychological distress, which includes feelings of depression and anxiety, were experienced by 31% of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander adults. This shows how the inequities between the non-Indigenous and Indigenous people of the country have obviously shown because of how many of the people have a mental health problem and have a background of Indigenous Australian.